What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to 49ers First Takes. I am here with my special guest, probably should call him my co-host by now, Sterling Bennett of 49ers Access. And we're just here to talk about some 49ers offseason news, and we welcome you to join us as we go down the offseason rabbit hole. Some interesting comments came out the other day about certain players and how they look, and we're going to get into that sort of stuff because drama makes for good television. Why not do it on YouTube, right? So, yeah, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Yesterday, me and the wife spent our first year anniversary post marriage together.
Awesome.
It was possibly one of the worst anniversaries you could have. Dinner wasn't great. The movie we watched wasn't great. But other than that, we are living life, having a great time, and ready to talk some San Francisco 49ers with you.
Awesome. I'm sorry that you had to deal with that. What was the movie?
We went and saw Friendship with Paul Rudd and Tim Robinson. I liked it. But that's my kind of humor. My wife was like, "I'm bored. I don't like it," and I was like, "This is my vibe. This is awkward, and it's making me uncomfortable, but I'm here for it."
Did you guys stay for the whole thing?
We did, yes, we did. I am not someone that walks out of a movie halfway through. I have walked out of one movie in my entire life. That was a Haunted House 2, but there's a lot more context behind that. But I am if we're spending $30-$40 for tickets and some popcorn, whether it sucks or it's fantastic, we are sitting through the whole thing and finding some silver lining somewhere.
I don't really go to the movies much anymore, but I am a big DC guy. And I'm a Superman fan. I've been since I was a kid.
Oh, so you are elated of what's coming out this summer.
I am so happy for July. A lot of haters out there, a lot of people talking ass about it, but we'll see, man. I mean, it couldn't be any worse than what the other DC universe put out over the last couple of years. So they hit pretty much rock bottom. So the only place I can go is up. But we're here to talk about the Niners, so let's get into it.
Well, last year they hit rock bottom, and the only place to go is up for them too. So they kind of correlate in some way.
Exactly. The Niners were at the bottom. They could have a worse season. They could only win 5 games or 4 games, but
they could be a 0-win team.
They could do that too. So, I can't believe we're going to talk about this, but you knew it had to be done.
Do it.
The famous quote that everybody was talking about on social media probably about 24 hours ago or so was the quote unquote CMC, by the clips I've seen, looks like he's lost a step.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Something along the lines. I know you and Dre Area Sports talked about it, but I wanted to hear firsthand just how ridiculous, first of all, it being OTAs, not voluntary OTAs at that, for someone to take anything out of it when they're really going half speed, like nobody's going full speed in OTAs.
Yeah, I think it's really important and I've been there during OTAs, I've been there during training camp a handful of times, and, depending on your positioning on the field, on the sideline, you can certainly see things that maybe somebody else didn't see. Like there's some days where it's really hard to get a glimpse of the defense if you're on the side of the offense and vice versa. So I'm not here to criticize what someone thought they had saw. And look, maybe it's true. Maybe we get into the year and Christian McCaffrey looks slow and he looks like he's coming off, bilateral Achilles tendonitis and has a PCL injury and looks like he's near 30 years old. And that can come to fruition. But to have that takeaway so early in the very first day of media available OTAs, to me, is just asinine. Now, again, that can be true, but having been there and knowing how Christian McCaffrey operates, he is someone that never wants to come off the football field. He's someone that, like Kyle Shanahan said in his post-practice press conference, he had to save CMC from himself sometimes. And that's been the case his entire time in San Francisco, his entire time in Carolina. And this idea that Christian McCaffrey looks slow and looks like he's lost a step, there's no way anyone on either side of the aisle saying he looks fantastic, saying he's super quick and he looks like he has a pep in his step, or looks like he's slow. There's no way either one of those two opinions can be concrete one day into OTAs. Like, these guys are running against air. There's no defensive line. There's no pads on. And knowing Christian McCaffrey has worked his butt off the entire offseason, he had surgery, got himself healthy. You think San Francisco's not going to tell him, hey, Christian, take it easy. at least on day one. Take it easy before the pads come on. That way we have you week one. Because we didn't see Christian McCaffrey until what we like 7 or 8 last year because he got hurt before week one. And seeing how much, I guess you can say, vigor, how much San Francisco is pushing this year to still be an all-in type season. Obviously, Bryce Huff got traded for a couple days ago. They re-signed Fred and Purdy and Kittle, all that stuff. They know they have to have Christian McCaffrey out there, and they are going to do everything in their whatever it may be to get him out there week one because he has to be. If this team wants to win a Super Bowl, which all intentions are they do, gotta have him out there. And there's no way you can take away he's slow or it looks like 2 years ago from a relatively easy practice of OTAs.
And it wasn't a person that was there in person. They were watching it in a clip. So you're watching on your computer and making an assessment about something. To me, it's, you know what it is? To me, Sterling, it's when you have a following, a massive following. I think the worst thing I would do if I had that kind of following is spread misinformation or information
Chaos.
based on, trying to get engagement. It's just really weak. I don't listen to anybody unless it's Barrows, Mayoka. I hate to say it because a lot of people don't like him, but even Lombardi, he's there in the room. You wish people would be a little bit more professional, but I mean, you got to look at, some of the other people, the Grant Cohns of the world who, they're not fans of the team. I think this is the thing we got to remember as fans. If you're going to watch somebody, if you're going to use something, if you are a diehard fan and you are looking for a fan's perspective, a lot of these people that do this stuff for clicks and engagement aren't fans of the team. They are essentially content creators. So what you have to do is you have to find people that get paid to watch this team that are fans of this team on a daily basis. Listen to their assessment, listen to their viewpoint of things, and I think you get a more of a realistic kind of like real world level view of things, as opposed to somebody who sensationalizes things because it works. I think it's really careless, to be honest with
Yeah, I can't put myself in somebody else's shoes and tell them what they saw. I mean, obviously, we've all been through the whole Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, Jimmy Garoppolo stuff, and there were a lot of people that were just hammering home the point about Trey Lance. And look, we all wish Trey well. He's in I guess he's in LA now with Jim Harbaugh, and he's not going to start there because of Herbert, but we all want Trey to do well. There was no inkling, and I was there every single day during that time. Training camp, OTAs, Jimmy on side fields, Trey getting first team reps, Purdy there as well, like all of that. I was there every single day in the media room, in the press conferences, at the facility, watching things. Not a single day went by where Trey Lance was better than Brock Purdy. And I get it. We all want to have our favorites. I really wanted Trey to be great, and it was hard to fathom somebody like Brock Purdy actually making the roster over a guy that had guaranteed money in Nate Sudfeld. But obviously Kyle saw what he liked or liked what he saw, and it's turned into a now $265 million quarterback for good reason. But that said, I think a lot of this, like, you cannot make that concrete of an assessment on day one. You can say, wow, this receiver gets in and out of his cuts quickly, but there always has to be this like, yeah, but there's no defense. Yeah, but there's
little
no
bit of a
pads
caveat. Little caveat.
Right, like, take this for example. All the reporting was that Renardo Green had a really bad day, right? He was getting picked on constantly. The team put a video out of Juwan Jennings' deep catch on the field from Purdy, who is a cornerback, Renardo Green. Renardo Green is a cornerback that relies on physical play, jamming guys, getting physical, using his body. Of course, that player is not going to do great when he can't put hands on anybody. Like, that player's going to struggle because they cannot do what their strengths allow them to do. It's the same reason as to why you're going to have burners do well. It's the same reason why you're going to have guys like Juwan Jennings that are bigger body receivers go up against the defense and say, hey, you can't touch me. I'm going to win. Like, there's nothing. And this is why I don't start making these like concrete takeaways, my assessments until the pads come on, because the defense is always at a disadvantage. And I've been there during drills. Christian McCaffrey's running against wind and jumping in between cuts with trash cans in front of him with sweatpants on. There's no way you can make the assessment he's good or bad. There's none. Like, if that was the case, Trey Lance would still be here. Like, and that's the truth. And look, to everybody's perspective, they could be right. Come September, whether it's one side of it, he looks great, like 2023, they could be right. Maybe the other side's right come September. And CMC does look slow once the pads come on. But I guarantee you this, you're not going to see him in preseason. So this is going to go on
no doubt.
every single day in OTAs, in training camp. I think they're back in the media's back on Tuesday. I think they're back on Wednesday. I think they're back on Friday. Then they're back on the 10th and 11th of June.
And they're gone.
Then they have a massive break in between. And it's like, also, even if Christian McCaffrey looked a little bit slow, yeah, it makes sense. He's 28 years old. He has like the second most touches besides Derrick Henry the last 5 years, off of 2 rather serious knee injuries. Like, you're going to look slow in a warm-up practice to get your ramp back up. And here's more context. Just because the media sees one day of practice doesn't mean there isn't 3 other days leading up to that day where those guys were 100% going hard, pushing things. Like sometimes you get to training camp and veterans have days off. Why? They worked their ass off the last 5 days and they need that day off. But you only see it as a day off because the media is there now when they weren't there the previous week and a half. Like, context matters so much in this. And having been there, you learn that and know that. But unfortunately, you have some people, whether right or wrong, that aren't there and haven't been there and don't have the ability to be there for a variety of reasons. And then they say these things, and it's like, well, now you have the entire fan base up in arms of like, oh my God. When in reality, it's like, just shut up. It's the first day of OTAs. Like, who cares?
I just feel like, I feel like people are, I think because of the Trey Lance situation and the way that ended, I think it left a lot of people who were really rooting for him with a sour taste in their mouth towards this organization. And their coverage of this team isn't a coverage of a team like, oh, I love the 49ers so much. Look how great they were the other day. They look so great. They look great on Sunday, blah, blah, blah. It always comes from kind of a hot take perspective. And I feel like, I don't know, when it comes to what I like to see on social media, I just want straightforward information, good or bad, indifferent. I don't want anybody's mental or opinions based on their emotional feelings towards the team. I don't want to see that. I don't want to hear it. That's why I tend if there's anytime there's a narrative involved with coverage in the Niners, I don't want to see it because it just skews everything. I want to have a generic perspective on things like, how did they look? Did they look bad? Was there a lot of incompletions? Did he make a lot of completions? Did he throw a bunch of picks? Did he not throw a bunch of picks? Just give me the numbers, man. Straightforward.
Yeah, that's I would say this. I don't think you need to be a fan of the team. In fact, Matt Barrows is a Washington Commanders fan.
That's true. You've told me that. I should know that.
And Barrows is one of the best in the game.
Yeah.
And I also think it's okay to have an opinion on things, but it's just about how you go about it. Like, how you word things and how you say things, whether it's on YouTube or an article, matter, right? And so when you're saying things like Christian McCaffrey looks slow, Christian McCaffrey looks like he's kind of over the hill and looks like he's not himself, you have to have the context of this could have been a day where they told him, go 75%. Even Brock Purdy, who I think Nick Wagner said he was screaming at Jawan Jennings after he didn't finish route. he also threw an interception that, with the context included, was kind of like a, yo, F it. Like, there's pressure in my face. I have to make a play. Like, it's almost like when you're at training camp and you're at practice, there is no such thing as a dead play. If the offensive line is terrible and you get a defender in your face, the play goes on. There's no sacks. Figure out what you're going to do with it. You have to, like, you can't waste a play in training camp. And so I just think a lot of that needs to be added into the conversation as to, did Christian McCaffrey look slow? Maybe, but there's so many nuances that we don't know about. Even if you are there every single day, there are so many things we're not privy to. There's so many things that, like Laurie Matthews says, if you're gonna make mistakes, practice is likely where you want to make those. They're trying new things. They're installing new plays. I saw Braden Willis get screamed at almost every single practice his first season because he wasn't ready. Okay, and that then showed up in the actual play. He didn't play much. And when he was asked to, he wasn't very good. It's like when you go there on training camp, everyone's taking notes. Lombardi, Mayoko, Barros, everyone is taking notes. Whether it's on your phone, usually on your little notepad because you can't have phones out. But like, all they're writing down is 13 to receiver number blank. Where was the throw? Where did it miss? They're not saying, well, that ball came out wobbly and it almost got intercepted by 4 people and blah, 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 blah. It's like, I just think that when you're not there, you're reliant on other people for the information. And when those other people insert not their opinion, because that's okay. When they insert this, how do I want to word this? This almost like sensationalized version of the truth or a lie, it just divides the entire fan base, and it makes it really hard to trust anybody out there, true reporting or not.
Dre Area Sports says Kawakami and Kruger said he did. What did I say?
Kawakami
and Kruger said he did not look slow. Yeah. He said he looked very, very good. What he said? He said 187 made a good point. Oh, go ahead.
No, to Dre's point, what does very, very good look like against wind? Against nobody. Like, yeah, he looked good in warmups. So does everybody. Everybody looks good when no one's around you actually trying to tackle you.
I always got to say, this is always a saying that I always say when, you see something from someone and they've had a history of saying really crazy, outlandish things. I always tell people, consider the source. Yeah. And then you're less surprised. When you, like, if somebody gave me a blind take without a name on social media, I could pretty much tell where they're coming from based on reputation.
Yeah.
And anytime it's, I want to, like he says, I just want updates about our teams. Our reporters getting too emotional reporting on the team. Keep your emotion out of it. Just report the news. But it comes when you consider the source where things come from. Hot takes. I call them hot takes. Misery merchants, engagement farming. Dude, people do it. And I went through like 5 or 6 channels the other day because we were just talking at the beginning of the stream. The new Superman movie's coming out. I'm a big DC guy. All these people were running with the story that had no truth to it. It was a rumor by like a Reddit post or something that turned into a factual report that all these channels were reporting on, but there was no factual. And then the Hollywood Reporter came out with the actual story. Yeah. And if you go to the channels that report this stuff, the thumbnails are always the same. The titles are always the same.
Yeah.
So, like I said, consider the source. When I heard that report, and then I figured out who it was on social media, I'm like, not surprised.
Yeah, and look, I'm not going to call anybody out because that's not my job. Like, my job is to go to training camp and be there, and that's the plan.
Pretty cool job, not gonna lie.
And like, I was not privy to be there on day 1 of OTAs. My wife and I are again celebrating our anniversary, so I couldn't be there. That said, I can tell, and be honest with you, like when I first got to training camp and OTAs my first year there, I had no idea what I was doing. None. Like you're quiet, you stick to yourself, and it takes a little bit to kind of understand. Like, yeah, you have an idea, but like, talk to people, ask them what they're looking for. Like I remember talking to Larry Kruger, and we used to be coworkers, about like, hey, like, what do you look for? Like, I have a good idea. Like I have kind of the baseline. Like I have like 75% of it kind of down, but like, what do you look for? Like, what's your perspective? And I think it's important to be honest. Like, there are things, even in my own self, I have to get better at as a hopeful reporter and journalist in the field. And so I think going there, there is a divide to me. There is journalists and there's content creators. And neither one of those things are bad. That's fine. I myself am a journalist and a content creator on both ends. More of a content creator than a journalist now. But I think it's important to like, you can't lie to people. You can't sensationalize things. Yes, you can have satire. Yes, you can kind of make jokes and whatnot and everything. And like sometimes players just aren't good that day and say they didn't look good today. But I think it's important to understand why they didn't look good. Like there was a practice where we learned that this guy wasn't having a great day, ended up being hurt, and that's why. And it's like, oh, we didn't know that. And those and let's also be honest here. You cannot be on every part of 49ers practice field because there's two of them side to side, player groupings corner to corner. So you cannot be there and watch the entire practice from one spot. You have to walk around. You get 5 minutes of Christian McCaffrey. You get 5 minutes of Brock Purdy. You get 5 minutes of Nick Bosa. You get 5 minutes of the defensive backs. You don't get to sit in one spot the entire 45-minute practice and say, yep, and go about talking about the defense and the offense. And like, you don't get to have that. So maybe in that one rep or those 10 reps, CMC was taking things slow. And then once you leave to go watch somebody else play in practice, he turns things up. Like, there's that much context involved in this.
How do you, as a person you said you started to watch practice, and how do you go about trusting what you see as opposed to what you wanted to see, or going in with a preconceived notion? Like, how do you? I would never know how to do this. Like, do I go in there with expectations of what I'm about to see, or do I literally just react on base of what I'm seeing? I would have a hard time doing that because I wouldn't even trust what I'm seeing. Like, I would have a really hard, like.
So this is actually a great question because I remember being there when it was Lance, Jimmy G, Sudfeld, and Purdy. And I walked in with the preconceived notion that, yeah, Brock Purdy's probably not making the team. And I'm sure 99% of the fans thought that. And I walked in there and was like, yeah, I'm not going to watch Purdy too much. Granted, he wasn't given many reps because he's a four-string quarterback. Those guys don't get many reps. That's why it shocked everybody when they traded away Trey Lance and kept Brandon Allen. We all said, huh? Really? That's the guy? That didn't make any sense. And to my own fault, that was a big learning lesson for myself. I walked in with the preconceived notion that, yeah, the odds Brock Purdy's not going to make the team. I'm not going to watch him very much. And if I do, it's not going to be as intently as, say, Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, at the time, Nate Sudfeld, or the rest of the roster. Obviously, I look pretty dumb now because he's the franchise quarterback. And those things happen. So, and look, I'm still not great at it. You walk into training camp and go, wow, that guy's a UDFA. That guy's a first-round pick. There should be expectations being set for each player, right? And so, you just kind of have to let the players figure out who they are, right? Like, you can walk into your day one on the job and be absolutely terrible at it, but in 5 years and 4 years, you are the manager now. I always want to give every single player the benefit of the doubt, give them time, be patient. That's one thing people aren't nowadays, is patient. It's a virtue for a reason. It's okay if certain players aren't great the day you went to practice. They could be great the next 5 days and you weren't there to see it. But I think it's important to talk to people. Like, again, me and Kruger don't talk much when we're there, but again, it's kind of picking their mind. What'd you see? And also, like, what I saw on a play could not be what somebody else saw 20 yards down the field further than me. They could have, they could be behind the defense. I could be behind the offense. Okay, well, I'm seeing an entirely different perspective of the exact same play. And so you see their notes on Twitter, what they write, and you go, oh, okay, well, here's mine, and they kind of contrast each other. Where's middle ground?
Right.
Report both of them.
That would be so difficult for me because, like,
it's hard.
There was people that were reporting who went to training camp. They were fans. They had a YouTube channel. They don't do YouTube anymore. They did not like Purdy. Okay.
Sure.
So all their reporting was every day, or at least most of the days, they had Trey Lance outdoing Purdy all the time.
Yeah.
Like constantly. And I'm like, how did we get to Brock starting and Lance being traded based on the reports of some people? And it was like you said, you have to go in and just like without a preconceived notion. The only way I could get to that conclusion is somebody had a preference and a preconceived notion going into when they wanted to report. Because to go, you can't go from every day's winning reps to traded. And Brock doesn't quite. I mean, he looked good, but man, Trey Lance's arm it's just something else, man. Some of the plays that he makes, if he could just get over, if he could just get past, the easy stuff and doing the easy stuff on a regular basis, the checkdowns, the crossers, the gimme plays in the NFL. So I don't know. That was a really weird thing for me.
Yeah, it's difficult because even the fans in the stands compared to the journalists on the sideline, one's elevated, one can see more of the entire field. The journalists try to get the entire field, again, are only seeing one sideline of things and saying the play from kind of like a cone point of view, whereas you're elevated in the stands, you're high up, you can see more things and whatnot. And, I'm not going to say someone's wrong or someone's right or the other thing, but usually the people that do a bad job weed themselves out. Sometimes they don't, though, and sometimes it's important as fans, as people, as journalists or whatnot. Like people want different things, right? Some people do want that sensationalized news. Some people do want, what's the juicy scoop? Like my wife loves reality TV. She loves the drama. She loves the BS. She's watching the Mormon Wives right now, and I'm like, it's 11:30 at night. And I'm gonna go to bed. So I'm gonna smother my face with a pillow to not listen to it, right? And she likes Love Island, and sometimes you tune in and you're like, oh my god, I see how you like it, but also I hate this. And so I don't know, like
100%.
Like it's just I'm not here to critique what somebody else does. I'm not here to critique somebody else's content or the way they do about their work. I cannot like it. I can push back on it, but having been there, I respect everybody in that room. They're all good people, at least in person. I can't talk about them on social media or whatnot, but I think for myself, and I can only speak for myself, it's really frustrating to watch people fall for the traps. Like, it's like when I don't want to use like a war reference, but like, we're walking into a minefield. Maybe you throw some rocks down first. Maybe you throw, some sticks and see, hey, it's safe to step here. And it just seems like people are just like, la, 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 and it's jumping around. I'm like, what are you doing? This is unsafe territory. You're frolicking around and you're going to get yourself really confused, turned around, and you're going to blow up. And so again, it's not a great analogy, but my point is that you have to be really careful who you listen to. And it's interesting when people can be wrong 100% or 95% of the time and still maintain the audience they have, compared to those that are like talking to GMs and quarterbacks behind the scenes, which I'm not doing by any means. But like Mike Silver does a hell of a job. He's in those meetings. He was in the Chargers or the Rams draft room this year, and nobody else in there. Like, and that's why you get A+ reporting, because he's actually doing what you're supposed to do. And I'm not critiquing those that don't do that stuff. That's really hard. It takes 35, 40 years to have the access to do that stuff. But to have a very like tiny 5% perspective on practice and make that story 95 times bigger than it actually is, that's bad. That's dumb. That's stupid. Like, don't do that. You're over sensationalizing an OTA practice when they're wearing shorts. There's no pads. There's no offense versus defense, really. It's 7-on-7, and everybody's in bubble wrap. You can take nothing away from those practices
And
outside
yet
of
people still
look,
get hurt. And yet still people get hurt still.
But they usually get hurt in the weight room or when no one else is there. Like Richie Grant's doing laps in the locker room filming himself. That's when you get hurt. Not when the media is there.
Well,
it rarely ever happens.
I want to no, but just it was a long one because it took over social media the last couple of days of just like, whose side are you on? Are you on the reporter side, the sensational side? I even said it to myself, like I have a certain amount of reverence for like certain people, like you said, of like have been around and doing it for 35, 40 years. It's kind of like, I mean, like I have my dudes like you and Kruger, who I listen to, that like both have worked in radio in some form or fashion, and you've been at training camp and all that stuff. So I tend to navigate and I tend to drift to this place where I feel like people have a little bit more of the inside knowledge and it's a little less of an opinion. Being that, I want to switch topics to the trade that went off the last couple days ago. I think it was made official today because today is June 1st. Bryce Huff, edge rusher from the Philadelphia Eagles, once was under Saleh, I think in 2023, where he had like 10 sacks, had his best year. A lot of people are, crapping on it, and because they're trying to look at it from the perspective of like, then more than what it is. Like he was brought in essentially to be depth that we talked about, me and you and Dre, about Niners. They have a nice draft and it looked good, but they needed maybe to add a piece here or there. And essentially that's what the Bryce Huff move was. What was your take on it? You seemed pretty down with it based on your reaction on social media. I was too. I just wanted to get your kind of like personal take on it.
Yeah, I think it's really hard for fans to, or it should be hard for fans to dislike this move. There's a lot that's been made as to Bryce Huff's struggles in Philadelphia, where he himself admitted that he wasn't a scheme fit. He himself is not a 3-4 outside linebacker, and that's how Fangio's scheme is played. Like, Fangio is here in San Francisco. Bryce Huff is not Aldon Smith. He's not Ahmed Brooks. And those guys are great in their own right. And the guys in Philadelphia obviously won a Super Bowl. Like, they were great. They didn't need Bryce Huff. And people were saying, oh, Philadelphia pawned off their trash on us. Well, I come from a place where someone's trash can be your treasure. And if Philadelphia, who is having to admit they made a mistake in signing him, he did not contribute much last year. He's not going to play for them this year. Like, Philadelphia effed up and said, how do we get out of this? And San Francisco said, we'll take him. And I think it's a great move because, one, you do reconnect him with Robert Saleh. And by that, I mean in a scheme that plays to his strengths. People want to talk about, well, that quarterback's a system quarterback, and that receiver only works in this system. That running back was only good here. You know how, like, offensive linemen, there are gap offensive linemen, there are zone offensive linemen. Like Tyler Booker for the Cowboys, he's a gap offensive lineman. Connor Colby in San Francisco, albeit 6 rounds later, flourishes more in a zone blocking scheme. Bryce Huff fits more in that 4-3, put your hand in the dirt, Robert Saleh wide 9 defense compared to a 3-4 Fangio defense. And you see the stats. He was like the best pass rusher in true pass sets in 2023. It's also a point to make where he was not drafted by Robert Saleh. He was drafted in 2020. Saleh then took over in 2021, said, I can work with this kid, and turned him into, at the time, one of the best edge rushers in football. Hence why he got paid big money by Philadelphia. Hence the reason why I think there was a trade somewhere, or Philadelphia signed Bryce Huff, then they traded Reddick to the Jets. So it's kind of like a trade-off in a way, but it really technically wasn't, which both those moves didn't work out whatsoever, both those teams. But
Right.
I think it's a great move for San Francisco. They get at the lowest level depth at a position they needed it, and at the most, they get a excellent third down pass rushing specialist. People were trying to make this as he's a number 2 guy. They're paying him $8 million to be the number 2. They're not doing that. They're paying him $8 million to be a third and long mercenary. That's what his role should be, and it's what it's going to be this year.
Yeah, he's a situational pass rusher.
Exactly.
He was never going to come in here and be a starting defensive end. That was not the goal of this move. A lot of people, I've seen some people predict him in the NASCAR package. That the famous, you take what's his name, and you put him inside. Michael Williams. I still say his name wrong. You kick him inside, and you get one of the younger. What is it? I forget the name of the new defensive tackle that was hurt in camp.
Alfred Collins.
Yeah, you got Alfred Collins on the inside, and then you have Nick Bosa. I mean, like, that's what a lot of people, kind of imagine him being, and that's pretty much what it is. I don't make more out of it than what the actual move really was.
Right.
Mid-round pick, like that. The Niners,
which it's a day 3 pick, so that's rounds 4 through 7. We have no idea what it is now, but it's like a San Francisco. Let's say it's a conditional 4th round pick where he has to live up to that. Okay, if he doesn't do it, he's not on the roster next year. You gave him the 5th round pick at probably the most. It's like a 5th round pick for a shot in the dark, a guy that was really good under Saleh a couple years ago. Like, why would you not make that?
And they're paying half of the contract for this year.
Exactly.
Plus, the Niners post June 1st just got rid of 2 contracts that essentially equal up to the amount that they're going to pay him. So really, the Niners haven't really, if you think about it, like, no money was really lost in this transaction. So it's a win-win for everybody.
It is a low risk, really high reward if it works out. And if it doesn't work out, then you didn't give up anything. It's like $8 million.
And he's 6 years younger than Leonard Floyd too. So if he's productive, you're also getting a guy that's really young still.
Exactly.
Like you said, it's a low risk, high reward type of thing. That's what you want.
And on top of that, it just makes San Francisco deeper. Like, I think I was telling Dre this, like, we left the draft saying, okay, like, you cut Leonard Floyd, didn't sign Joey Bosa, you're not going to sign Jadeveon Clowney, you only drafted 1 edge rusher. What's the move? And we learned that San Francisco had been working on this deal since free agency. And they waited it out, and got their guy. Now, again, has to work out, but, like, this was the plan. Like, Bryce Huff was who they wanted. And it's so funny that we have watched this defense and special teams bring in, like, all these ex-Saleh guys, right? It's the exact same thing San Francisco did when they hired Kyle Shanahan. You bring in Tevin Coleman, you bring in Alex Mack, you bring in Pierre Garçon, and there's a variety of different outcomes in all those players, but, like, it worked out pretty well when Kyle did that. And obviously, again, Bryce Huff is not those players and vice versa, but sometimes you just like a scheme. Like, sometimes certain players just like certain coaches. Sometimes, football players like playing with that offensive coordinator, right? Some quarterbacks like that quarterback coach. Like Jimmy Garoppolo, for all his faults, really loved Rich Gangarello. Was it great? No, but it
wasn't good
Jimmy.
Anywhere else.
No,
except
but it maximized Jimmy
for some reason.
And it's like, okay, like, if Jimmy wants that, you're paying him big money, give it to him. Like, when NBA players ask, you sign. Like, Giannis Antetokounmpo has been somehow giving his brother a contract the last near decade because it makes Giannis happy, right? And so this move, Bryce Huff, gets, like, the social media post of him being like, see you, Philadelphia, and then, like, the next post is, like, in a Jets jersey, flexing, just super happy. He wants to play for Saleh. He's comfortable again. And you're hoping that if that works, this dead battery of a player, that thing comes back to life and you say, whoo, take me home.
Haven't we all worked for a boss that we really liked?
Yes.
And then we worked for a boss that we hated and didn't want to work hard for because they sucked at motivating, or they were a hypocrite of a boss. They didn't work hard, but they expected you to work hard. That's human nature, man. Like, somebody might be like, I don't want to be here. That's why, I mean, you can go in even into wrestling. You haven't seen Brock Lesnar since Vince McMahon was completely let go from the WWE, because he don't trust anybody else. That's life. So for him to be happy to be playing under Saul, I think, is a great thing. Maybe, and some guys just know how to motivate certain people and get more out of them than they would have done any other place. So to me, it's a win-win. It's not, you're not financially locked down by having this guy. So there's really no bad that can come out of it.
It also opens up more to the defense, or it gives them a more complete defense. Like before they traded for Bryce Huff, you walked into the year with Nick Bosa, a very complete player, right? Then you had Micah Williams, who's a power edge rusher, wants to bull rush guys, wants to bully tackles and guards, can play inside, can play outside. The plan was be our Eric Armstead, right? That's the idea. Then you had Sam O, who really doesn't give you much explosiveness, but is more of that Leonard Floyd type of player, I would say, kind of an average guy. You're not going to ask him to do too much. He's probably going to be, he was kind of the scheduled third down player, or at least the number 2 guy opposite Bosa, like the more complete player off the front. Then you had Yetur Gross-Matos, a guy where you really weren't sure what his role was, but you like what he can bring to the table. Last year of his deal, can play inside, can play outside. But now you bring in Bryce Huff, and you start to get, okay, like, you have Michael's power meeting Bryce Huff's speed. Like, we talked about James Pierce Jr. in the NFL draft in Tennessee, went to the Falcons. We talked about him getting to the quarterback in all 4 pathways, around, inside, swim moves. Like, he's one of the more complete pass rushers in the draft. Not complete players, pass rushers. Bryce Huff is along those lines, albeit older. He's a very complete pass rusher that will get to the quarterback in 4 different pathways. San Francisco hasn't had that since Dee Ford. And now, I'm not saying this defense will be 2019 again, but it's important to point out that this defense has become more complete, more dangerous, and this defense under Saleh, or even DeMeco Ryans, that was a swarm mentality. This is the all gas, no brakes mentality of, you run the wide 9, the hope is to force opposing offenses into 3rd and longs, and then pin your ears back and just go. You want to pin your ears back and go? You put Bryce Huff out there. That's the guy you want, putting his ears back and saying, let's hit the freaking gas, and there ain't going to be no brakes. They removed from this player archetype. It is all gas. There ain't no brakes at all. So I think it's a great move. We can mix and match now, makes you more dangerous, more versatile. I haven't seen anybody kind of like not liking the move, but there really isn't a reason to, which is why
if you go into some, I did a TikTok the other day, and I think an Eagles fan was like, he sucks. Good luck with him. He's garbage. I'm like,
that's been the consensus from the other team, though.
Yeah,
that didn't use him.
Exactly. So another move that happened was the releasing of Mitch Wisnowski and the signing of Morstead. Was it Thomas Morstead?
Yeah.
Punter, formerly of the New York Jets. A move that I didn't see coming, but I guess behind the scenes was something that was going on based on his health and all that kind of stuff. Brent Boyer has really put a hands-on approach to special teams with some of the roster moves that they made, constructing. They also, along with him, they brought in a linebacker, Chaz Surratt. A lot of people say he's a special teams linebacker. So, I mean, his handprint's been all over the special teams. And I keep saying, and a lot of 49er fans will agree with me, they only got one thing left to do, and that's get rid of Jake Moody. But a lot of us, including yourself, still think that he has the heads up to win the kicking job in training camp. So, what did you think of the move? Were you shocked that they got rid of Mitch Wisnowski?
Yeah, I mean, yes. This move seemed pretty clear that it was a lot of just based off injury. Of like, we're not sure if he can stay healthy. We like him as a player. Him and Thomas Morstead are very similar as punters, or at least they have been over their careers. So I think that while the move was shocking, I'm not like, oh man, like what a crazy move. Let's say, okay, like you don't want to have an injured punter. Like, one, it's a waste of money. But two, I want to ask you this. Does it kind of feel like San Francisco is asking, mainly Kyle and John, that are like, hey, we messed up with how we constructed the roster. Hey Brant Boyer, hey Robert Sala, can you fix it for us? Kind of what it feels like a little bit.
Hey
Where it's
guys,
like,
we tried to do this and we failed miserably.
yeah.
Can you make us
It's
look
like
better?
it's like when you do a school project and you're like, hey mom, hey dad, can you like fix this for me? I tried, but it didn't work out very well. Kind of what it feels like.
There was a coworker that used to do that when we'd have huge orders and deliveries in the bakery, and like we had to make trays, with fruit and bagels and stuff. And mine always sucked; they looked horrible. Well, this chick had like the magic touch, so I usually would just give the look, and she would come over and doctor it up and make it look pretty. And then of course I got all the credit for it, but it was like
Oh,
some
you're one of
people just
those guys. You're
yeah.
the group project guy.
I was always the group project guy, but
Oh
no,
yeah.
I thought it was interesting. Like he just won. Like I did not expect it, but it kind of makes sense because he's kind of just formed this special teams. He like a lot of people liked his attitude from his first press conference. Um, I don't know if it was you that said it. You don't think that you don't think that he's a big fan of Moody. I don't know if it was you that said. I forgot who said it. And that like Moody has like a bigger chance to not be on this team than a lot of people are thinking. That this kicking competition is a real thing this offseason. I don't know who exactly said it, but that would be great. But yeah, I was definitely surprised that they made a punter move. But at the same time, I'm one of those people that if something hasn't worked in the past, I'm not one of those people that stays faithful to people. Oh, we drafted him. He's been one of us, blah, blah, blah. I'm not one of those people. I'm not sentimental. If you can't get the job done, goodbye. See ya. I don't this sentimentality, you stay attached to people that suck. I'm glad that it feels like John and Kyle for the first time in a long time this year have kind of went against their like personality type, which is like buy Debo, buy this person, buy that person. Yeah, we love you a lot and you were a great player for us, but you weren't producing, so you have to go. Like I'm liking that because they haven't always been like that.
I think it's really important to point out that despite maybe Kyle's disdain when it comes to answering special teams questions, like he just never is a part of it. He doesn't care about it. He never has. And being an OC and being a receivers coach in his previous years, like you don't really need to. And now he's a head coach and play caller. Um, like he's kind of like, I have so much on my table, I don't want to deal with anything else. And to
Agree.
have like not to say Brant Boyer is a future defensive coordinator, but he comes from the same cloth as Robert Sala and other guys too. Whereas like Brian Schneider was this kind of relaxed, not kind of proactive guy. He's on the field, he's doing reps, but like you kind of got the sense that maybe Kyle had to maybe peek his eyes over every couple plays and was like, what's going on over there? And that wasn't the case initially, but I think Richard Hightower, who was here before Brian Schneider, like that Bears team has a pretty good special teams unit. And I think when you go through two failed coordinators, you have to bring in someone like Brant Boyer. Like I don't want to call it the auditor, but San Francisco has essentially audited their roster this year. Where's the lack of, we're not allocating money here. Where are we overspending? And smartly, had a down year. They can capitalize on draft capital. And they realized, look, like if we want to get this thing right, we have to be honest with ourselves. Look in the mirror and just point out the flaws you have. Like when I was a sophomore in high school, I was 300 pounds and I was like, I'm fine,
Wow.
whatever. I like to eat. And when I realized that, hey man, eating is fantastic. I love food. My wife loves food and she's tiny as a twig. But I'm like, I search for food. I'm like, oh, snacks. Eventually I was like, I can't do this forever. Like, I need to be honest with myself, look in the mirror and say, how can I change my life for the better? I was 15 then, 16 then, I'm 28 now. Like, I'm under 220, like, and have maintained that. But it's like, you have to be honest with yourself. Like, how can I better my life? If you're messing up at work or you're messing up in your relationships, how do you better yourself? And Kyle, for better for worse, was like, hey, we don't mess up, John. And John's like, yeah, we did. Get the auditor in here. Prague, gut us, all this stuff. Brant, Robert, fix us, please. Whatever you want. Our hands are tied. We can't change anything. You do what you want to do.
There is been coaches in the past who have had a lot on their plate, and the team hasn't uh, returned to the success that it once had. That happened with Bill Walsh. They stripped Bill Walsh of a lot of power going into his final coaching season after the 87 playoffs, where they had the number one seed and home field advantage and they lost to Minnesota. And that was a strike shortened season. Jerry Rice had 22 touchdowns in like 12 games or something. It was like they were supposed to win the Super
Why is
Bowl
it
that
goat?
year. That's why me and my brother would just talk about that, like Jordan and him. Always tell my brother my two favorite athletes of all time are Michael Jordan and Jerry Rice because of their mentality. But they took a Hall of Fame coach who has 3 championships, and they stripped them of responsibility and said, "Just go coach, just
Yep.
go coach." They did that. Carmen policy at the time, and they won another Super Bowl. So sometimes you have too much on your plate, and look at the great team. Look at Kansas City. They got one of the best defensive coordinators in the league.
Just look at Philadelphia. What does Nick Sirianni do? He don't
He's
call
just a
plays. He
he's a
don't
rah
call
rah
the
guy,
defense. Yeah, like, and that's, they said, hey, Nick,
and they
we don't
won.
need you to do anything else. Just keep the egos in check. Motivate these dudes. Go if you want to push a coach around here, there, awesome. Just delegate and be a leader, and that's
Some
all he
people,
is.
yeah, some. I think Kyle Shanahan maybe. I think this saves him as a coach because I mean, if you look at Kyle physically, he looks pretty burnt, right? But bringing back in Saleh, they asked him straight up at the press conference how happy he is. He couldn't hide it. He's so happy. I mean, and he says there's a different perspective now because he's been a coach. So like now he understands like when he was mean to Saleh, now Saleh gets why he was being said way towards him. So I thought that was really cool. I'm not big on Kumbaya because if it doesn't translate to winning, I'm still pissed. But I feel like this offseason, we talked about this at the end of the year. I talked about this with one of my co-hosts during the season 49ers Plus podcast, Al. This needed to be is we needed to have the worst season of all. Like it had to go as bad as it could possibly go because I felt like if the season they would have ended on like a good streak or they would have ended on a winning streak, that like maybe they wouldn't have had the testicular fortitude to make changes. And because things were so bad and ended so horribly, that they didn't have a choice. And that's kind of how I wanted the season to end. And it went exactly. I mean, they gutted their roster, they gutted their special teams, and they gutted their defense as far as like coaching. And now it's like, okay, here we go. We're refreshed. We're ready to go. And we got 2 new coaches. So I'm stoked. Like I said, I'm not big on Kumbaya, but it makes me feel better now that, you have 2 really good coaches in place of 2 coaches last year that were just over their head bad. So I'm good.
You said you were stoked, but are you JJ stoked?
I was a big JJ Stokes fan.
Okay.
I'm big into the tall receivers, man. I'm 6'3". I was always
So
into the
we're
tall receivers.
so how do you feel about Ty Streets?
Ty Streets was nice. I mean, he did his thing, but eh.
Brandon Lloyd, He was
Brandon
dog.
Lloyd was okay.
I love Brandon Lloyd. That was like the first like number one guy. Like, there was T.O.
Bolden was kind of my
like
guy because
everything.
Bolden was a bully.
Yeah, I loved him.
But I mean,
Were you a big Josh Morgan guy?
yes, and he got hurt,
like
and he
Josh Morgan
never,
a lot.
and he never had a chance to be something.
But
That was
Dominique
it.
Ziegler.
No, Kyle Williams.
Can I tell you how much I dislike Michael Crabtree so much?
I liked him coming out because he had like an ego, and he was kind of like a little
He
bit
held
of a
out
diva.
for a
and, like,
contract. I was like, what's going on? Just sign it and get on the field. You've proven nothing.
yeah, and then he turned out to be it was
Fine
pretty
number
bad.
2. Fine number 2.
That's what he was. He was a possession number 2. That's it.
And we had Randy Moss down the field.
So that was beautiful, and we still couldn't win it though. That's what sucks. I wanted to talk a little bit about the grenades that are still being lobbed at Brock Purdy this offseason by TJ Houshmandzadeh. I want to play the clip. I did this with Raj the other day. I played the clip, and we just talked about everybody has a job nowadays on television, even people that were 7th round picks that accomplished nothing in the NFL. Everybody has an opinion, including TJ Houshmandzadeh. So I'm going to play it, and then I'm going to get your opinion on what you think about this ridiculous take.
Wow. I mean, look, I did the math on this because when it happened and I heard that, it wasn't live, it was on social media. I was kind of like, okay, like sometimes you can just like look at the numbers and you're like, wow, that was an idiotic thing to say. Like you look dumb on every single level. Like I know Brock has detractors and that's fine. You can not like Brock. You can think there are 10 quarterbacks, 15 quarterbacks better than him. That's fine. I think it's important to point out that while Calachipto is right, if you do 265 divided by 6, which is his contract, it is not $53 million a year. Like, and look, Brock's only getting like 3 guaranteed years. Like, San Francisco has an out. Like, they can quickly, not like, oh, we're locked in, quickly say, oh, 3-year experiment didn't work. But it's funny too because Houshmandzadeh was also Ayuk's receiver coach, and he'll tell you that Ayuk is worth $35 million a year. And Ayuk, when healthy, is a damn good wide receiver. Damn good wide receiver. But he's not worth $35 million a year, not worth $32 million a year. Technically, he really wasn't worth 30, but because San Francisco played coy, he got the better of them. Which led us to this off-season's purge. That said, of the 11 quarterbacks currently getting paid $50+ million a year, only one of them has won a Super Bowl. That was Jalen Hurts this year. One of the top 11 getting paid $50+ million. So if the other 10 quarterbacks in that grouping, is Joe Burrow overpaid? Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, Jared Goff. Like, you can make arguments for all those guys, yes and no. Like, but 1 of 11, I have no idea what percentage that is. It's not very good. It's really hard to win a Super Bowl, first off. But when 1 of 11 have done it, getting paid over $50 million, not really backing up your argument here, TJ. That said, I did even more math. Of the 16 quarterbacks getting paid $40+ million, which is where TJ said he wanted to pay Brock, only 3 of them have won a Super Bowl. And that already includes Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, and Matthew Stafford.
To me, it's a stupid argument. Like you said, there's a ton of quarterbacks in the NFL that if you go by that logic, should be being paid the league minimum.
Shouldn't be on rosters.
One of them resides in Dallas, who gets some of the biggest passes every year for them not winning. For some reason, Dak Prescott doesn't get nearly the amount of hate that Brock Purdy's had since he's been in the league. And now you want to go with the pay argument? No. To me,
So
it's the running. To me, it's the running price for having a National Football League quarterback who you think is
right.
competent to run your team. How many this whole thing of there's elite level quarterbacks and they're the only ones should get paid. You know how hard it is to draft a generational quarterback. You know how many coaches have lost jobs because they haven't been able to land that said legend quarterback. Most of the teams that land those quarterbacks are suck ass teams like the Bills. You
Panthers.
know all these teams. You have to suck really bad, and then
Well,
you might get a quarterback in the draft in the top 5 who could be generational. Does Trevor Lawrence deserve to be paid? He's done nothing in the National Football League. He looks
which
the part. He's
which
6'6".
he
Go
might.
ahead. Maybe
I'm
one
saying
day. But
he has a new offensive coordinator, head coach. He may, but
to
at this point
me,
in time,
it's the optics. It's the
yeah.
physical optics. They look at him. They say he's small, doesn't have a big arm, struggles in the rain, whatever. But to me, it's just an empty argument if you're going to go Super Bowls being the all time thing to whether a quarterback should be paid or not. So that means every quarterback that Joe Montana faced during his career, all of them were overpaid except for Joe. Right?
I mean,
That's how we're going to
you're
go
not wrong,
here.
I guess.
Just ridiculous, man. Like everybody gets a TV job nowadays.
I think
That's
it's
why I don't
also
watch
important
it.
I think it's also important to point out that if you look at from a financial standpoint, we already talked about, how many quarterbacks getting paid over $40 million per year, AAV, have Super Bowls. 3 of them do. I didn't count Russell Wilson in this because I assumed he's probably not going to be a starter the entire year, so forgive me there. And I didn't count Aaron Rodgers, nor Joe Flacco, because I don't think Joe Flacco starts the entire year either. And Rodgers currently isn't rostered. Only 4 starting quarterbacks that are probably going to begin and end the year as starters have won a Super Bowl. 4 of them. Joe Flacco won one a long time ago. There are 4 quarterbacks on that Browns roster, probably not going to start the entire year.
Right.
Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, Jackson Dart, there's going to be a competition there. You can very easily see what happened last year in Pittsburgh. Then you have Aaron Rodgers, who may be a Pittsburgh Steeler, may be on a darkness retreat, who knows? That said, 4 of the current 32 starting quarterbacks have won a Super Bowl, and Mahomes has won multiple of them. Like, come on. The argument is, until he wins a Super Bowl, who the hell's paying quarterbacks after they win Super Bowls? If your quarterback is good, you're paying them to have them win you a Super Bowl.
Yeah, if you go with the negotiation tactic of let's pay somebody after they win, you're an idiot. It's always the organization
rarely ever works that way.
The organization always has to win on these contracts, man. They should always win. That's why after like you said, what happened last year with Ayuk and that whole situation with Trent Williams and maybe some other money that they paid out to people that they shouldn't have, like they were like, screw this, man. Like we're in charge here, not the players. And they righted some wrongs this offseason. They gutted the roster. They didn't overpay for people to stay, and they kind of got a little bit of gravitas back in their favor. I just think let's wait for a guy to win a Super Bowl, and then no.
I get it's the ultimate goal, but what more does Brock need to do? He's 23-13 as a starter. He's first in yards per attempt since he became a starter in 2022, second in passing touchdown percentage, second in completion percentage, second in passing yards, first in passer rating, third in postseason wins, 2 NFC championship games, walked off the field of the Super Bowl with a 3-point lead. That his head coach didn't even know the damn rules to in overtime. Like, I get it. They didn't win that game, but like, what else do you want Brock to do? Have him block for himself in the gap? Like, come on now.
This kind of thinking is one that drives me crazy. Is it comes down to championships because just competing is not good enough anymore, especially for this franchise. Of course, that was the going thing back years ago. But I mean, we had 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks on the roster, bro. Like how many franchises get 2? in the course of their existence. We had 2 back-to-back, 114, 111, 5 championships. Like, some franchises will search and are still searching for that quarterback to take them to the promised land, like the Browns. That means that means everyone the Browns has ever had didn't deserve to be paid. If you can't go based on that logic,
Well, the Browns are a pretty interesting quarterback conversation. I would say the Panthers are a good one, right? Like they had Jake Delhomme. He got to a Super Bowl. He lost because a kick. Like, I mean, that's a long time ago. But like, did Jake Delhomme not deserve to get paid? No. Like, did Cam Newton, who won the MVP and then lost in the Super Bowl, not deserve to get paid?
It's the going market, man. Look at these baseball contracts. Look at these NBA contracts.
I don't like that gas is $4 a gallon. Will I complain about it? Hell yeah, I will. But guess what? I still got to get gas in my car to get from point A to point B. I got to pay my quarterback to even have a freaking chance to win.
Here's the thing: who's the option if it's not
Mac Jones?
Purdy this year? Mac Jones?
Well, no, they'll say Aaron Rodgers. Which, like, why would you want a 42-year-old guy that you may or may not know is going to be high between games? Want to fire Solid and Shanahan
who
again?
has atrophy in his leg, where he had his Achilles surgery.
Exactly.
He's a team destroyer like T.O. was back in the day. He is so bad for your locker room. You're going to bring him in here? I don't think so.
Mac Jones, you're going to play Curtis Moore off the torn ACL?
Or was I mad that they didn't bring Brady in when I heard that they could have a couple years ago? Of course. Oh, hell yeah, it was.
But even then, there's context. Brady coming off a pretty down year in 2019. Jimmy going to a Super Bowl, just lost it. Yeah, there's limitations there, but they were like, you know what? Even Tom Brady in 2020 is not winning a ring with the San Francisco 49ers.
Nope, that 49ers, everybody got hurt. The whole team was hurt in 2020. Bosa was gone. Freaking, I can't even remember how many players. Didn't Garoppolo get hurt that year?
Garoppolo got hurt week 2 against the Jets. Bosa tore his ACL that day. Solomon Thomas tore his ACL that day. Raheem Mostert also got hurt that day, I believe.
Yeah. He wouldn't have got a championship for this team. No thanks.
No.
If you're going, listen, man.
Context matters.
Listen, I'm 30. I'm 45 years old. They were 15 the last time they won a Super Bowl. I am very aware of the pain and the anguish it is to be a 49ers fan for 30 years, but like you got to pay people, man. That's just the way it goes. That's the name of the game.
And like people complaining that Brock's getting paid too much, cap escalation, guaranteed money isn't the actual per year value, which is why it's a nauseating conversation to have. TV deals are redone in 2029. It's only a 6-year deal, technically a 5-year deal, really, but like Brock's only going to be 30 years old at the end of it. Like, you really are maximizing the best window for Brock to actually be good. And you're not paying that much for him.
Yeah, and what is it, 2027? They can really go in on free agency and really bolster this roster.
And going back to the Bryce Huff conversation, all of the talk of, well, once they pay Brock, it's over. You can't pay anybody. Paid Warner, paid Kittle, and just acquired Bryce Huff. Like, I get it. Like, those are deals that may sound like they're fringe roster moves like Bryce Huff. Like, oh, he's a number 3 guy. He's a specialist. Those moves change outcomes of games. Like, you pay Brock, and then you trade for Bryce Huff to maximize the window as well. They're going for it. With Brock Purdy getting paid. Like, it's almost a nonsense conversation to have.
Laura, you said it best. And like nobody here wants them just be in the mix but not win. But
exactly.
I'd rather them be in the mix to win it every single year because it gives them a chance.
Yeah.
Would I give up being competitive for 2 years to win a Super Bowl, 3 years?
Of course.
Yeah.
Like, this is a great comparison. Would you rather be bad for 2 years? Okay. Get your roster in order, have high draft picks, not guarantee you'll win a Super Bowl, but you'll have one of the best chances to get to the Super Bowl. Or would you rather be the Pittsburgh Steelers, who every year never have a losing record, but are always in the playoffs, and if they just got that one final piece, could maybe actually win the entire thing? Or you can be the San Francisco 49ers, who are in the window now, paid their quarterback, and are still going for it. And they're still
And
going for it.
yeah, look at this. Next year, the what is it? The $90 million cap hit will be gone. I think most of it's gone next year, right?
I have no idea.
We'll have to get a cap person on here one of these days. Real quick, I'll just nail these last two things. I won't even play the videos.
Play the videos.
All right. Well, this one was Shanahan. This was Shanahan talking about the message that he gave to the team about, after the last season and how he wanted to see people. He wanted to see like a kind of a total, what is the word I'm looking for? Total participation.
Attendance?
Yeah, in the offseason programs and all that kind of stuff. So here's Kyle talking about kind of the message that he laid on the players.
Tangible kind of vibe.
I think the way I addressed it the most was our last meeting in January. I just told the guys, I talked about how the season ended the year before and how when I felt them all come back, I felt guys weren't ready to come back. And I understood that. But I told them how I won't really understand it this year. Not that that was right or wrong, but I kind of comprehended we're off 5 weeks earlier. We all know how disappointed we are. And a lot of us have played a lot of football here. But we're going to have a team that doesn't know what we've done in the past or how you guys have earned a lot of stuff. We need to show them. And the first meeting that when we get back, I expect our whole team to be here and to be important to guys. And I thought the coolest thing was everyone being there on the first day. We had every guy show up, and I didn't have to call anyone and beg them, which said a lot. Like, they all knew what I said at the last day, and I wanted to see if they really meant something to them, not to where I had to call them and remind them, and I didn't, and they all showed up, and they've all been working, and to me that's something I really appreciated, and I got the right guys.
So apparently everybody really couldn't hear it. Yeah, essentially what he was talking about is they talked about, how long their seasons have been the last couple of years and having played a lot of games. And, last year they came off of the Super Bowl loss, and I think they were only away, 5 weeks from the facility?
They came back 5 weeks early, I think.
Yeah. Like so they really didn't have an off season to decompress. Guys were not ready to come back. And
we all went to school. At least I hope we did. Imagine you're in school for 9 months. You value that 3 months off, right? Oh, thank God. Away from teachers, away from schoolwork. My brain needs a break. Cut that in half. Imagine you had a month of break, a month and 1 week of break. You're going to be driving yourself into the ground as a 12-year-old in sixth grade.
Yeah,
my wife's a teacher.
Vacation, was all of a sudden erased, and we had to go back in 3 weeks after.
Yeah. And this is a physical toll on your body. And my wife's a teacher, and I'll tell you what, she went through hell this year. She had a lot of stuff. She had new school and a bunch of kids that should probably be in a psych ward, to be honest with you. It locked in kids up, man. They're crazy out there. But she is going to value this next 2 months off because she's like, oh my God, I can't handle one more day. It was as soon as the school was over, she was like, F them kids, we're out of here for the next 2 months. My God. But then she comes back. She's refreshed. Her brain's healthy. Her mentals are healthy. She's okay. I can give these kids all I can. Same thing in football, right? You give your team a season, 8 months, everything you got. And then you get 3 weeks off, 3 months off, you recuperate, you rest up, sit with the family, have dinner, be with your kids, your body's healed, you come back, ready to go again.
And then essentially what he was saying is everybody's motivated and feeling good and ready to go. One of the things he said, Kyle, in the press conference, the larger press conference is just, Kyle saying that, was CMC being as healthy as he's been, and
but he looks slow, so watch out.
But he looks slow, yeah. So, man, I'm there was a part of me that was a little upset last year about how accepting they were that they were going home early. And the players are really burnt out because, look at Kansas City, they've been going at it for years and you never hear them bitch and complain about it. So
no one complains when they're winning.
No one complains when they're winning.
You You win. You're like, let's do it again right now.
Sterling, first takes, red zone. What's up, man? Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Yeah,
Scott
like
Hansen?
there was that. I was a little bit pissed off, and now the more I think about it, like I can understand. The older you get, the harder it takes for your body to recoup physically, mentally, spiritually, whatever you want to put on the end of it. So
It's like when you get older and you're like, man, my bedtime has gone from 11, maybe 2 a.m. to like 9 to 8 p.m. And you're like, this is great. I love this.
I
My
never
body
could
needs this so
understand
much.
adults going to bed at 8 p.m. and now it's like,
I get it. Like,
is it time to go to bed yet?
yeah, I'm like looking forward to sleeping. And I'm like, when I was younger, I was like, let's go crazy.
Right.
Let's party. Let's
Let's
whatever.
play Halo
Out,
all night and eat,
like
potato chips
out in the
and soda.
town, just wreaking havoc at the 3 a.m. And now it's like, hey babe, it's 7:30. You tired yet? I'm tired.
Mhm.
Like, please. I'm like begging to go to sleep.
Right.
And yes, Lori, at 28, I feel a lot older than I actually am.
Yeah, I'm way older than him, so I have more wear on the tires, man.
My back aches.
I've had 4 surgeries in 5 years. 2 on my shoulder, 2 on my knee.
You are the San Francisco 49er of losing in the Super Bowl of
That's
surgeries.
me.
Exactly.
I am not. No, I'm the Buffalo Bills of surgeries. I'm
You are
0
Aaron
4.
Shanahan.
No, I'm like the Marv Levy of it, 0
Okay.
0 for 4. I've never won any of the surgeries. They all had to happen. But Lori says I'm 55 and rarely in
All
bed
right, Lori.
before midnight.
Rub it in, why don't you? Okay, you night owl. Jeez.
How many cups of coffee do you drink a day?
What's wrong? I wish I was you.
Right. It's okay to go to bed early, man. It's good. Sleep is good for you. Some people say I'll sleep when I'm dead. It's like whatever.
Well, you'll be dead if you don't sleep. So pick one.
Yeah, if you keep exactly. I have insomnia issues, so I have to take stuff to help me sleep. So when I can get sleep and it's natural, I love it. That's pretty much it. There was a little bit of a Fred Warner talking about kind of mentoring Nick Martin a little bit, but all I'll say to that is they really need Nick Martin to really show up this year. That would be huge for Fred Warner and that linebacking core if Nick Martin played up to his draft status of the 3rd round pick, even though some people thought he was a reach. Hopefully, the people keep saying he's a clone. He's a clone of Dre Greenlaw. Let's hope he's not a clone when it comes to getting hurt all the time. But any other stuff for the 49ers as far as news, or have we pretty much touched it all?
I mean, look, I think it's really awesome that Fred and the team, the coaching staff, has really hyped up Nicholas Martin. I think a lot of people, including myself, were like, yeah, we like Nick, but round 3's a little too rich for me. I think we can still have that opinion without seeing him actually play yet with pads on. But I think I remember when I was younger, and the linebacker position is one that just always infatuated me. Whether the Niners were terrible or they were great, this team has always had great linebackers. Whether it was Derek Smith, Jeff Ulbrich, guys that weren't, maybe not top tier guys, but really competent players you liked. But I'll tell you this, one linebacker that often isn't talked about, that really wasn't that great outside of 1 year, but really caught my eye, was Brandon Moore, because he wore the neck brace. And that dude was just laying wood on guys in preseason. I was like, who the heck is that guy? I want to be that guy. That guy's awesome. There's energy. It impacts the team. And the team wasn't great around him, but it's like my eyes in my 2005 self were geared and is glued to linebackers on defense. Now, obviously, Patrick Willis and all that stuff, and Navarro Bowman, and now Fred and Dre and all those guys. My eyes are going to be glued back to linebackers this year because, unlike previous years, you didn't have to. With Takeo Spikes, you have Willis, you have Bowman. You just know those guys are great. And now I'm
Gary
waiting
Plummer,
for the next guy to step up.
You had Gary Plummer. Awesome. You had freaking Ken Norton. Yeah.
Funny enough, Ken Norton's son is really bad at football, but also went to my college.
Interesting.
Terrible defensive.
Charles Haley essentially, because the Niners played a 3-4. They had Mike Walter, Bill Romanowski, Keena Turner, all those guys. Haley was outside pass rusher. They called it the elephant position, where essentially he would be a linebacker, but he would play on the line of scrimmage as it was like a 3-4, 4-3 kind of hybrid. And he was one of the best.
So what you're saying is Bryce Huff would not fit in that scheme.
No, he wouldn't. I was thinking for a second, I'm like, what is he talking about? There is one more thing I wanted to bring up, and that's the injury to Ricky Pearsall. Kind of caught me off guard. Was a little bit like, really?
Yeah.
The Jair Brown one, I kind of felt the same way, but are we like, we're counting on Ricky Pearsall to be something this year, and the fact that he's hurt already.
Yeah, I mean, he got hurt last year. He hurt his hamstring last year and was working back from that, and then he got shot. So, I don't know if the hamstring thing is like an off-season thing. I'm not sure if it's the workout he's doing that he shouldn't be doing or just overdoing things. And he's been working out the entire off-season with Brock and Kittle and all those guys. So I'm not sure what happened. Maybe it's just overworking things, but you got to think he's going to be out until training camp. So it seems like it'll be like a 5-ish week injury. Put that into a regular season, actual season mindset. He's missing weeks 1 through 5, essentially. Now, obviously he's not, but that's a relatively serious hamstring injury. Obviously they're going to take things slow with him and, be very cautious. So that's all good. I'm not too worried about it. I think I'd be more worried if it was like a tear or if it was like, a really serious thing, like it's off the bone or whatnot. But I'm also okay with him like not being there now, albeit I do think it's really important for a young player like himself who has to be like in the offense and this team's number 1, number 2 receiver. Without Brandon Ayuk and DeMarcus Robinson misses time, you can't have Pearsall also missing time. So I'm not too worried, but you do want young players out there being healthy, hitting the ground running, especially Pearsall, who didn't have a lot of time last year during the offseason program to do so. But I think as long as he gets a full training camp under his belt, we're okay.
Yeah,
but
that's the same thought I had too.
But I'm also intrigued now because Jacob Cowing and Tariq Owens and Junior Burgeon and Isaiah Hodgins all get more reps. And that to me is really intriguing.
Who's the guy that they drafted that they said looked pretty good in camp? I forget his name.
Oh, Jordan Watkins.
But
also, didn't he tell the media that Kyle or whoever told him, like, hey, bud, you're not going to play much this year? And it's like, okay, well, like, cool. All right. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he looks great, but again, context, it's wind. It's just no pads, guys running routes. They're not burning defensive backs. It's like, okay, like, cool.
Yeah, that's another thing. And one, who was the media guy? I think it was Mark Schlereth. Because people were trying to say that, like, Sanders looked really good in practice and stuff. He's like, guys, it's OTAs where they run freaking schemed up freaking plays to play against certain defenses so that the offense looks good. Take that into consideration before, like, that's why the whole, to round this all back to the beginning, that's why the whole stupid comment about the speed of Christian McCaffrey in an OTA video that was probably played at like 3/4 speed is just dumb. It's OTAs. The real stuff doesn't happen until right.
It's just like Christian McCaffrey and Chariots of Fire. Do.
With a little shorts. Those little those little shorts they used to wear back then. Anyways, we're gonna get out of here. Everybody, thanks so much for your for your
it's like,
did I say precipitation? Participation.
It's like Stallone and Apollo Creed in the beach in Rocky 3, man. Just running out there in the shorts.
Oh, those shorts back then.
Great time. Bring back the 80s, man.
Oh, definitely. Just not the shorts. But
no, especially the shorts. That's the only thing I want back from the 80s is the shorts.
Okay. We can agree to disagree. I like the music, the movies, not the shorts. But
hey, speaking of movies, TV show, Stranger Things trailer came out, and I'm intrigued by that.
I saw it. They didn't show much, which is good. Because I don't want to have anything spoiled, but it's going to be a sad ending from what a lot of people say. So I'm going to cry. I cried at the end of season 3 when I thought Hopper died. So
they need to kill everybody.
Everybody needs to die.
But Steve,
But Steve in his chest hair. Yeah, definitely. All right, everyone. Everybody take care. Have a great rest of your evening, and we'll talk to you on the other side. Peace. I got to get an outro, folks.